When the power of love overcomes the love of power, there will be peace. That's Hendrix. Whether you agree with the methods of these activists, daredevils, whatever it is you want to call them, those words stayed with me because they reminded me of a question that I have been wrestling with. A question that seems to appear everywhere I look in sports, in culture, in scripture, even in my own life. Can the deepest passions of the human heart be redirected rather than destroyed? Welcome back to Faith Keepers. Last week we traveled together to New York. What began as a trip that had been planned months before the Knicks had even made the playoffs became an unexpected lesson in God's providence. Every episode of Faith Keepers begins with what I call a Faith Keepers Sigma question. Today's question is this: can the deepest passions of the human heart be redirected rather than destroyed? Human beings are passionate. We always have been. Whether it's sports, politics, business, entertainment, gaming, fashion, technology, the objects of our passions might change, but the human heart does not. Jesus never told us to stop loving. He taught us where our love belongs. Love the Lord, your God, with all your heart, and love your neighbor as thyself. Notice what Jesus doesn't do. He doesn't remove love. He gives it direction. Love God first, love your neighbor second. Everything else begins finding its proper place. As I reflected on that, my thoughts went to Jeremiah chapter 36. God tells Jeremiah to write his words on a scroll. Think about that. God used one of the most effective communication technologies available at the time, a scroll. It carried hope, it preserved truth, it reached people Jeremiah himself could never meet. The scroll wasn't powerful because it was a scroll. It was powerful because of what was written on it. Today, our scrolls fit in our pockets. iPhones, tablets, cameras, social media. Technology itself isn't our greatest challenge. The deeper question is, what are we writing on today's scrolls? This question became personal for me. Before I became a Christian, I spent years as a filmmaker documenting the hypebeast scene or nightlife. Which included music, fashion, sneaker culture, art, creativity, identity. I filmed events, I filmed people, I told stories. At the time, I thought I was documenting trends. Looking back, I realized I was documenting people. People longing to belong. People searching for identity. People searching for meaning. People wanting to become a part of something bigger than themselves. Today, I don't look back at that time with condemnation. I look back with gratitude because God didn't waste that season of my life. He used it to help me understand something I couldn't see then. The passion wasn't the enemy. The deeper question became, where was that passion leading? Maybe God rarely wastes our passions. More often, he teaches us where they belong. So often we think redemption means removal. What if our creativity, our ambition, our influence, our passions were first surrendered to him? Imagine if every post asked, does this honor God? Does this love my neighbor? Imagine if our businesses existed first to serve. Imagine if our influence encouraged instead of divided. Imagine if our creativity reflected the Creator. Perhaps the answer isn't becoming less passionate. Perhaps it's allowing God to reorder our passions. Love, when rightly ordered, is a principle God gave us for human flourishing. Love isn't removed, it's reordered. I want to return to where we began, that banner. Those words, as I said, stayed with me because they reminded me that people everywhere are searching for peace. What interests me is that scripture, history, culture, and even our favorite stories keep leading us back to the same question: what deserves our highest love? Jesus answered that question with remarkable simplicity. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. Love your neighbor as yourself. Perhaps that's why so many of our passions don't need to be destroyed. Perhaps they need to be reordered. So I'll leave you with this week's Faith Keepers Sigma question. What passion in your life might God be inviting you not to abandon, but to reorder toward loving him and loving your neighbor? I'd love to hear your thoughts. So until next time, keep the faith.